Welcome, welcome everybody. We're happy to be here. We are excited to be here. We have a lot of fun ideas for you that we hope you'll really like. And the whole goal is to help you. To help you. Although I think I'm getting more help than you are, but the goal is to help you. We have been working on sound.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a buzz. It's weird. This didn't work this time. We're gonna try something else next time. We're gonna try USB.
Let's unplug that. Unplug your computer. Let's try it. Why don't you try the other thing? Okay. Just behind the scenes. Welcome, welcome. For those of you who are watching and very patient with us, we cannot get the problem to happen in our test. We ran numerous tests, no problems. Here we are live, problem. So we appreciate your patience in hanging in. We will get this fixed. It's just persisting. You know, we all love computers and hate computers all at the same time because you know why. 1 minute it does it and 1 minute it doesn't. However, if the sound holds, we have so much wonderful information. we want you to practice your patience. Thank you. Over the last couple weeks, let me say again officially welcome. Over the last couple weeks, we have kind of been again experimenting with different formats. So I think it's really important that I present more of the questions that I'm receiving, and the reason so is it's not that the questions are good, bad, or indifferent. The questions indicate to me that your thought process is in the wrong place. So all I'm trying to do is help that thought process get, I'm just trying to correct your thought process. That's all. So there's questions that come to me and they are indicators that your thought process is in the wrong track. And so the purpose for me to read these is so that all of you can help see what that thought process, why it's wrong, and kind of why we want to go in a different direction. That's the goal. And hopefully you all know me well enough that the goal is to help you. My goal is to simply help you. It's not to offend you. It's not anything except to help you. And we'll go from there. Okay. This one in particular really made me think that I'm not saying things correctly. So the last couple weeks we've had a little video special. It's a 3-video special, and it's all designed on helping you drape. So the email is she thought that draping was taking fabric and just kind of cutting it in big pieces and laying it all over the mannequin. And that's, I guess you can call that draping, but that is what many of you think, and that is not what draping is. There's 2 methods of making patterns pretty much worldwide. I know in the US, I know in Europe, I know in numerous South America, I mean many other countries. And those two methods are flat pattern and drape. Flat pattern is you could give me numbers and I could just measure it out. But because we're dealing with a body and we're dealing with something that, forget that it's a body, we're dealing with something that has no point of origin. There's no one point of origin. And so it's not possible to draft it out exactly right. So the goal is, because it's quick, and the big picture is to get to the end result the fastest, best way possible. So the drafting is done. There's a base, there's a sloper, we call it, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. And then we take the base and we go to the dress form or to our bodies, and draping is how we fine tune. Then we take the draped changes back to the flat pattern. So the two work hand in hand to give you the best, quickest possible garment that's correct using the combination of those two methods. So when I said we were draping, I meant that we're fine tuning on the mannequin, or that's the LCD. LCD is draping, and then LCD is taken back to the pattern. So again, the two are used hand in hand. She said, I didn't have a video on draping. I have a whole bunch of videos on draping. So that's where as I read these, I think, okay, I must be missing what I'm saying, or what I'm saying is not getting across correctly. By you asking the questions, it's helping me see that I'm not getting it across carefully and I need to restate it. All right? So we're having fun while we're doing all this. We just have to do it again. All right, so those 3 videos packs, because I think those are really important 3 videos. They're Achieving Great Fit Through Muslins, they're Tissue Issues, and they're Fitting Yourself by Yourself. They're all evolving around that same base, which is fitting yourself, draping yourself. I had a set of emails this week that said, I just don't want to make a muslin. I don't want to do that. I don't have time to do that. How can I possibly be expected to make a muslin every time I sew? And when I get these questions, I feel like you're just not hearing what I'm saying. And that is that LCD, you have to understand L, C, and D. You have to differentiate them, because L doesn't change from garment to garment to garment. So once I drape it, I could convert it to everything else I have, and L would always stay the same. D stays the same. The angle of my shoulder, the bust, the sway back, those stay the same. C changes. It changes with my fabric. It changes as I go from garment to garment. C is what changes style. So for C, I don't have to make a muslin. I could make it bigger and then take it in. But L and D are things that I need to make muslins for, but those are things that stay consistent. So once I know what I am, I can put that flat and I don't have to change it time after time after time. I hope that clarifies. Questions as we begin? Because we're in our question answer period. I wanted to present these in that question answer period so then that we could move on. Is 3,300 and 3,500 the same basic pant? Yes. The jean and the same came from there, yes. What patterns would you suggest for making a cardi wrap using a loosely woven sweater knit? I would use 196, 112, Mary's wrap. I'm sorry, 65. Mary's wrap is a good one. 211. Nina's top is a good one. What is the iron-on product that can be used to add nice drape to a thin fabric? You mentioned it recently, saying it is available in many colors. No. There is a fusible interfacing. It's available to help fabric drape, but it's only available in a black and a white. We sell it, but only available in a black and a white. Okay? Alright, any questions that come in, let me know though, okay? Alright, so one suggestion we had is in this live webcast when we were asking questions and answers, could we put the questions up on some type of screen? We can't. We don't have any edit format when it's live. It's live, and so therefore we don't have an edit format. And I think the suggestion was really good because you can't kind of focus on the question and hear the question, but once you can see it, it's a little bit easier to absorb. It's a great suggestion. We can't do that. Okay, so another question is, it said there's a boucle, it's loosely woven, and they're trying to figure out if that would work for, if that would work for a vest or a jacket. It would probably work for either one, and should they wash it? You should do the same treatment for your fabric before you sew it that you expect to do for your garment after you finish it. So if you're okay with always dry cleaning your garment, then you don't have to do anything. If you want a lower maintenance garment and you want to wash it, then you should wash the fabric before you make the garment. So it really is dependent on how the care you want to give to that garment after the garment's constructed. I always say, if you'll take a small piece, a 4 by 4 inch piece of fabric, take 2 of them, wash one, compare it back, dry it, compare it back, you'll know exactly what you want to do. The samples will tell you what you want to do. Okay? Can the new knit fabrics just posted on the site be used for yoga pants or leggings? Are they thick or thin? They can, leggings can be thick. That's not a right or a wrong, but what you're really looking for leggings is a two-way stretch. So anything that has a two-way stretch can be used for leggings. And leggings, you're seeing a lot of prints right now. So yes, those 2 knits that can just be done are used for leggings. If you can use a one-way stretch for leggings, it'll just have a tendency to bag at the knee, and that's not because it doesn't have resiliency, it just doesn't have stretch in both directions. It will wash and it will come back, but it'll have a tendency to, not bag, I shouldn't say bag, but give you less mobility at the knee. I think that's a better way to say it. So any fabric that will work for a jacket will work for a vest also. So you can use those fabrics compatibly. If I wear a size 4 in the blouse 600, do I make the same size in the trench coat, or ease built is, or should I go up a size? These kind of questions, I get a lot of these questions, you guys. Sizing is dependent upon you. I give you the numbers so that you'll know what those numbers are. But so I can't tell you, if I wear a size 4, should I always wear a size 4? I can't tell you that because I don't know you. I can tell you that all of our patterns are finished garment measurements. That's why they're finished garment measurements, so you can tell you what you want. So the best thing to do is to measure a trench coat, to measure a coat, something that you wear, and see how many inches it is. I'm going to refer back to the Brett chart because Brett and I are still arguing about the chart. He won, I got it, and he was right. But the Brett chart is over on the very last page of the website. We have a features page. And on the features page in the middle column, I don't know what it's called. What'd you call it, sweetie? Finding your measurements. Perfect. Finding your measurements. You need to go through and take all of you. And I know many of you have because you've come to workshops and you've said, look at my measurement page and it looks amazing. But I am surprised how many of you don't have this done and you don't understand the importance. You have to understand that if you don't know what you like, you are like shooting in the dark every time you go to make something. So I'm really going to encourage you to get that chart. All you have to do is print it out or download it, I think one or the other, and fill it out. You got to fill it out. And I know you can say to me, I don't want to make a muslin, I don't want to do this. It's part of the sewing process. It's part of the beginning process to get that fit where you need to do it. And from then you'll sail. But it's like you want to play tennis, but you don't want to buy balls. You got to have balls to play tennis. So kind of think about that concept and get the chart and fill the chart out, okay? One question about pants. We've talked a lot about the dart at the top of the thigh. The question was that she put a dart in the back and didn't put a dart in the front. No can do. If you change something and something sews to that something, you have to change the something that sews to that something. You can't change one without another. Alright, so again, a lot of questions that I'm getting from you guys is what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And there's many times where I answer back, this is a style option. I can't tell you. You've got choices and you have to make those choices. And I think if I could say this, we've got to stop fearing failure. Failure, you know what I have noticed about myself is I've gotten much better at sewing. I've just gotten much better. I've gotten much better at pattern combinations, fabric combinations. I just really like what I sew. And you know why I've gotten better? Because I sew a lot. And I think I need to say to you all, you need to sew a lot. You need to sew as much as you can. And let's pick a number. Let's say 50% of that is going to be successful and 50% is not. I think that would give us more acceptance. We want everything to be perfect. We want everything to be right on. I can appreciate that, don't get me wrong. But I think it's really important that we have to recognize that we're just not going to succeed 100% of the time. Right, maybe right now. Okay, but we can get better and we can get there. I have had a lot of requests for the First Lady, Melania, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember her name. Melania Trump, the blue collar that she wore to the inauguration, and yes, we're going to do that next Monday. Next Monday, the webcast or the video, the YouTube, whatever we want to call it, will be on that collar and on that outfit. So I'm going to push back questions on that because I still got a lot today. I've got a lot. We're going to push that back. And the reason we're going to put it on Monday is because there's the drafting of that collar involved and then the sewing of that collar. So we're combining those two things, and Monday's the appropriate day to do that, to reserve to do that. All right, are we good? All right, any other questions? To make a jacket, what kind of fabric is the best when you want the edges to fringe, and how do you prevent it from fringing too much? I'm going to use this fabric. This is a good example because it's a jacquard and it's a woven. So what you want to do is you'll pull out the thread that you want to be the fringe. And then once you have it pulled to the point that you want it to be, and you're going to get different fringe based on the weft or the warp. Both will fringe. You'll just fringe out both sides to see which side you like best. And then once you get it to the point you want it to, just run a stitch right at the base of where that fringe starts, and that way it won't allow any more of those vertical threads to pull out. It's pulling out the vertical threads that create the horizontal threads to create the fringe. So once you've pulled out all the verticals you want, run a stitch through. In theory, it won't fringe anymore because you have to either agitate it or cut it off in order for any of those to go additionally. But always in manufacturing, they'll just run basically a stabilizing stitch just to make sure that horizontal stitch won't come off. Okay? All right. How are we doing? And I want you on this time, because we're going to start with draping this little lady here, I'd like you to really ask questions as we're going. Or, you know, I mean, even if we're a little past it, to kind of ask questions. Simply because the goal tonight with this is to really make draping easy for you. So I don't want any of you to be afraid to get this jacket to fit you correctly. Alright, so I'm going to go through my thought process, and the first thing we're going to do is drape this, and then I want to show you tonight a couple options, and I think there's some really fun options for you, very contemporary options that we can get to today. But again, I need you to kind of ask when you're not sure of what to do, if you'll ask me where to do it. Okay, so what I did is I made up my muslin. Now, just so you know, what I did is, I know this is not exactly my double, but I know on me, I cut it to where it fits me. But I didn't, I'm not draping on me, I'm draping on this because there'll be some differences. So I just wanted you to see those differences. What I did do though is I didn't use muslin per se, I used real fabric. It's going to be my jacket. I'll show you it finished in a couple weeks. So I just wanted you to see the process too, and I wanted you to see step 1, step 2, and then step 3 of completing the jacket. Alright, step 1 is the muslin. And what the muslin, now let me just say that 1900 is just, I don't know how else to say it, that it's just a fabulous pattern. It has, I'm going to show you the back, I mean it just fits beautifully through the back, the shaping of it has a center back seam. Don't eliminate that, it's got a lot of fitting in through it. The fitting up through here gives you a lot of mobility, while it still gives you a beautiful silhouette. So the jacket itself, I just think it's just a really beautiful jacket. It gives us it is a riding jacket. Typically in the world of fashion, it was the riding jacket in the 1800s. It changed quite a bit. Jackie O wore it because she did do equestrian and she loved the riding jacket, and she actually is the person who brought it into fashion. So this is the riding jacket. Updated by Jackie Onassis, updated by Princess Diana, updated by Kate. Princess Kate wears it quite a bit at, you know, regal affairs and stuff. Okay, so it is a high notch, and it has buttons up the front, and then it has a curved bottom, and it's really meant to have the masculinity of a jacket and the femininity down below. Obviously you can change it lots, that's all styling, we're going to do that, but that's the jacket and what it is, and of course it's a long-sleeved jacket. Okay, it gives a great opportunity to contrast the upper portion of the jacket. So to do a contrasting collar and a contrasting lapel is really easy to do this, and I'm going to show you a couple that I've done over the years just to kind of give you a heads up. For instance, it's a great place to use leather, just little leather touches. I did just a leather collar, leather lapel. The rest of the jacket is a riding jacket, so it really gives up a little bit of change. With this jacket you can actually open this up to where you can have a longer, and by only putting one button here and skipping the button at the bust line, so it gives it a more vertical look. Those are all options. But again, let's go back to fit. This is my facing, and I just stuck it in the jacket. So right now I'm going to pull those out so that you just see the jacket as it is. What I did when I was making up the muslin is I went ahead and did the collar. If it is truly just a muslin, stitch the neck edge because it's bias and it's easy to pull out and stretch. So I would recommend that you stitch that neck edge just to maintain its shape as you're putting it off and on. So the first thing you're going to do is you're only using the 4 pieces. When you make a muslin, don't put in the sleeve. Don't put in a sleeve. You're going to have some fit issues that you need to correct. The sleeve just complicates things and makes things worse, and you may have to take it out. So you don't have to sew in the sleeve to see if it fits, which is what many of you do. The sleeve fits. I promise it fits. So leave it out, and what you're going to do is don't ever try on a jacket without a shoulder pad. So always put the shoulder pad in place, because it definitely has a different feel with a shoulder pad than without a shoulder pad. Alright, if you're using the jacket and if it has a 1-inch shoulder pad and you're wanting to use 1/2 inch, then just use the 1/2 inch and watch for the shoulder to have the wrong angle. So in other words, because all of this isn't taken up, because this is a jacquard that I'm using, and a jacquard's a little heavier, and because it's a little heavier I'll use a 1-inch shoulder pad because it'll weigh that shoulder pad down a little bit. But if you're using a thinner shoulder pad or no shoulder pad, then watch for the difference to be right here, and that's where it's going to be, and that's where you're going to go ahead and pin it. And you're going to pin it from here to nothing over there. Okay? If you don't pin that there, it'll fall down to either sides of the armhole. So always put your shoulder pads in. I see so many women who bring the muslin to class and they have no shoulder pads, and they say, look, what's wrong with this? And they kind of laugh and funny, well, you know, they don't have any shoulder pads in. So that's the first thing you want to do when you put on the jacket muslin, is put your shoulder pads in place. So we're going to start with L. L is length. Length is base of the shoulder to bust, bust to waist, waist to hip. I don't anticipate any problems with lengths, and I'll tell you why. The princess seam doesn't have to have a right place, and because I know close enough where your bust is, I'm going to be within 3 inches of your bust point. So there shouldn't be any changes from the shoulder to the bust. Nothing. From there you're going to turn it around and see if the waist is in the right area. I think I explained to you sometimes, or last webcast, that there was what they call a broad waist, and it just lasts for several inches. So on most figures I haven't had a problem with the waist, and I fit this jacket on a lot of women. If you do, if you feel like it's too low, just take it up all the way around. Just literally take a pinch in the muslin all the way around. and it doesn't matter where you take it. It has to be under the bust and above the waist. The hip, there's no alignment between the body and the jacket. I went ahead and, that hip can't be wrong. What can be wrong is the jacket can be too long. I cut this out the length of the pattern. My final jacket is not going to be the length of the pattern. The reason I did this, and the whole reason I did the pattern longer, is it's more difficult to fit it over your entire body than it is to just cover your waist and high hip. So I'd recommend when you're doing a muslin, so you won't have to do any more muslins, is to go ahead and take it all the way down to the length it is. And then if I want to do it long, I don't have to do another muslin. It's all fitted. When I take away length, I don't have to readjust circumference. When I add length, I do have to watch circumference. So my suggestion would be make it like it is, make it long, and then take length away. Even if you say, no, I'm never going to make a long jacket. I guess I'll believe that, but I would be surprised. The jacket I have on is 1900. It's long, and it's long because I have leggings, and it's a great style for today, and so the styles dictate to us that we might do something else. But it's your jacket. You guys can do whatever you want. Okay? We're okay? Okay. Haven't worked with scuba. Do you think it would work well with 1900? It would. Scuba's a good fabric for 1900, and you're seeing it a lot. And I like it. I mean, it's different. It's definitely different, especially because I'm a scuba diver. But it's fashionable and it's kind of fun. I don't think I'd want a whole wardrobe out of it, but I think a jacket, I think it's nice. I really do. I think it's a good suggestion. And 1900's a perfect combination for it. Is that it? Okay. So I've made my muslin just the 4 pieces: the front, the side front, the back, and the side back. Length, I'm all finished with. Circumference, you're going to have to decide that. You are going to have to decide it. Let me give you some hints. You're going to measure some jackets. As much as you combat me about that concept, and you all can combat me forever, but you're going to be the loser, not me. So the easier that job is for you, the faster you'll get to a successful jacket. So if I shop, I don't care where I shop, I don't care how cheap it is, I don't care, as long as I know it goes around me and I have some mobility, that's going to help me get to my circumference. If I do not have the right jacket and I do not have the right circumference, it is going to lead me to more trial and error. My goal is to eliminate as much as possible that trial and error for you, because that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of frustration. And there's a lot of clothes out there. So I know many of you have said to me, I hated shopping, you finally convinced me to go shopping. I did. You were right. I learned a lot. I'm not even trying to be right, I'm just trying to help you. Okay? So the more you understand what you like, the faster you'll get to liking your jacket. Okay? All right. And why do we make jackets? Jackets are the #1 item in our wardrobe that we can save money on. There's jackets out there that are $2,500, $10,000. There's no pants that are $10,000. We make pants because we can't get them to fit. But to me, we make jackets because we can choose all the details and we can save a lot of money. We can come in with a beautiful jacquard. Even if it's $40 a yard, 2 yards will clean up that jacket for me. Considerably less than what we could buy this for. Okay, that's what started me on jackets. Okay, so circumference. I always pick the circumference by the bust. Not the waist, not the hip, by the bust. Not the shoulders, the bust. I always pick circumference by the bust. So measure your jackets, figure out, forget measuring you. Quit measuring you, quit measuring you, quit measuring you. Measure the garments you wear. If you're between sizes, cut in between sizes. You don't have to draw on the lines. And only make up those 4 pieces. If you have to add to the bottom or take away from the bottom, very, very easy to do. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seams. Each seam has 2 sides to it. That is 14 places on a princess seam jacket to add or take away. That is a walk in the park. That is so easy to do that I buy it for the bust, expand or contract anything I need to below. Okay? Okay. That's circumference. Depth. You've got your cup sizing where you can choose B, C, or D cup. Pick the one that is closest to you. Some of you said you've had a dilemma for months. You haven't been able to decide your cup size. Well, just pick one and make it, and then you'll know if it's right, and I'll show you how to tell if it's right. When you have the shoulder seam picked up, if the shoulder seam is wrong and the cup sizing is wrong, they will converge in the middle to a gap in the armhole. A gap in the armhole means there's too much fabric, and I have two tools to take that away. It is the shoulder seam and the bust dart. The bust dart's been moved, it's no longer here, but if it's wrong, I can still and will still have an extra bit of fabric, and I can still take it out on a muslin, and I can taper it to nothing at the princess seam. The widest point is at the side seam. Taper, taper, taper. It'll go to nothing right there at the seam. And I would do the same thing in the back. Taper, taper, taper to nothing at the seam. I always call it the two-ended side dart. And that's because it's starting from the side seam. It's radiating out both sides. Why to the side seam? Because the side seams have to match. They have to be the same length. And then it tapers to nothing. It's like a bust dart. And it is a bust dart. It's really saying that the bust dart that was moved up to the shoulder seam isn't enough. So if you're doing a B cup and you have to do this, you should have done the C. If you're doing a C cup and you need to do this, you should have done the D. If you're doing a D cup and you should have done this, you did what was right. You can't, because we don't have anything bigger than the D cup. But watch for this. It will clean up this armhole. You can see how much tighter that is, and then watch the shoulder seams. Those two tools are what will fix this gapping armhole, and they will fix it 100% of the time. This right here is changed in the angle of the shoulder seam. This right here is taken out of the pattern. And what you do when you have an alteration, that's this piece right here, I measure how far down this is, I measure how big it is, and I make a little dart. So it's that simple. And if you watch this portion, this is the portion that changes because this dart is actually getting larger. Okay, so very, very simple to do. That's the only thing you're going to do wrong. Some of you may have a sway back. That's it. If I decide to narrow the shoulder, and I've done it on so few, but let's just say you do, I'm going to come into the main portion, either the center front or the center back, and I'm going to take it off here. This is where I'm going to take it off. It doesn't change anything other than it will bring the side piece in closer to the center. And on this pattern, that's the simplest way to do it. On the front, same thing. I'm going to take it off here. Same amount, the front and the back, and it will bring the side panel in closer to the body. If I change the shoulder pad, do not change the sleeve. I'm simply going to redraw the armhole starting at this point and moving it down. So if I take up a ½ inch here, I'm going to bring it down a ½ inch here, down a ½ inch here. Very, very simple to do. That's it. There's one other thing I'm going to show you on your sleeve, but that's all your fitting issues. So let's keep it fun and let's keep it simple. Okay. All right, let's ask questions. Can you please show the last jacket once more? The last jacket, this one? The last jacket once more and the back of it. This one? Whenever I'm making a jacket, just FYI, I'm always going to measure the center back seam. I don't measure myself. Again, I just measure the jacket so I know the length I like, and that's the best measurement to use. So when I come into here, and if I want to make a jacket this length, then I'll come into here. And whatever I shorten the back piece by, I shorten all the other pieces by that exact same amount. All right, was that what you wanted to see? Do you need to make any pattern changes to the collar piece in order to lower the top button? I'd like to have one button lower down instead of 4. Okay, now again, see, when you ask questions like that, those questions don't make sense to me as to how the buttons would affect the collar. They're completely unrelated. So that tells me that I'm not understanding how y'all are thinking. The answer is no. The collar doesn't make any difference. This is the center front. So the fold back amount is completely subject to what the front's doing, but it doesn't have any impact on the collar at all. Does that help? Okay, I mean the center front portion, not the top piece. In theory, once you have when you're drafting a pattern, you have the center front. And then once you have the center front and you have the buttonhole extension, it goes out for the lapel. This is a very narrow lapel. So you'll see the pattern does go out, but it's very minimal. So you can fold it back without making any changes. In theory, if you're looking at a straight, so you can see where it starts to go out here and then go straight, this angled portion would come down farther. It would come more to wherever you wanted to fold back. But you know, you really just don't have to be that persnickety to be able to open it up. I'm going to actually show it to you on the collar I've got on, and that's why I'm wearing this jacket, because I was in Neiman's and I saw this idea and I wanted to show you all this idea. So we'll get to all that. I just want to make sure that you're okay with the fitting and all the parts of the fitting. And then also, how would I enlarge the bust dart? This right here is enlarging the bust dart. The bust dart's been moved to the shoulder. You're not going to touch it there. But you are going to make a muslin, and if you have any gapping at the armhole, that is the two-ended dart at the side seam. And if I do a two-ended dart, it will change the angle of other things to make the dart correct. And then you're going to stitch this down in your muslin. You're not going to stitch it in the final garment. It'll just be a part of the muslin, but it will change. It'll have the effect of the change. Okay? Do you understand that? If I take up the shoulder edge, do you need to lower the armhole so the sleeve will still fit? Yes. I said if you take this up a ½ inch, lower this down a ½ inch front and back, restore the armhole to the exact same size it was. And what you want to think along that process is, the shoulder angle was wrong. I want to fix the shoulder angle, but there was nothing wrong with the armhole. There was nothing wrong with the armhole. So why would I change the armhole and why would I change the sleeve when there was nothing wrong? I only had a problem with the shoulder angle. Those are two different relative parts. All right? Are we okay? Okay. I want to talk about this. Go ahead. Okay, so let's talk about the armhole now. The question is, how do I correct for diagonal wrinkles on a sleeve that radiate from the top of the cap to the front of the armhole? Okay, I'm going to take these pins out for a minute. They're not really, I think you all understand what I'm saying there. And we're going to go to the sleeve. And just for jollies, generally when I'm pinning on a sleeve, make sure you put the front to the front and the back to the back. And if you'll fold the sleeve in half, the lower seam is the front, the higher seam is the back, so I know that's the front. So what I'm going to do is pin this in place. You can't do this on a mannequin. This has to be done on you. I'm just going to show you what happens. Our arms are bent. If the sleeve is too straight, then that is what will cause the twist. One-piece sleeves will always twist. So right at the bend of the pattern, and I kind of have the pattern so that you will see this. This is the lower seam, it's the front. This is the higher seam, it's the back. So you can see that it goes down and then bends. And at that bend, that's where your elbow is. If there's any twists, lines, diagonals, anything, remember LCD. Lengthen means I'd have to shorten the whole sleeve. That's not going to help a twist. Circumference means it's too small. That's not going to help a twist. Diagonal wrinkles, you actually said it. That means it has to be a dart. That's what's causing the twist. So that LCD will help you go through and figure it out. And what I would do is come to the front seam. I would put a dart, and because it's a two-piece sleeve, it's going to have a place in the back where I can end it. This is in the front, and the back stays exactly as it is. So the way it looks on here is this is where the dart is, and it tapers to nothing over on this side. So all the way from front, nothing to back, on both the front and upper and under sleeve. I'm sorry. Both of them are shortened here, taken to nothing. And what you're doing is you're changing the angle of that sleeve, and it will hang freely. The twist is simply that the sleeve cannot hang, the arm's in its way, because if you took the jacket off and put it on a hanger, the sleeve wouldn't twist. It only twists when you put it on. And that's because it's just a misalignment of your arm and the jacket sleeve. Very easy to fix. Simply put it here. It's not something you can change after the garment, after the fabric's cut, so I would strongly recommend you make a sample sleeve. Do you ever have to do it again? No. One time. That's it. You're always going to use the same sleeve, draw in the armhole of all the jackets you make. Trying to keep this simple. Alright, on this particular fabric, one thing that I think is so exciting about fabrics is I actually used the back side of it. And I love the fabric. I love the right side. I just like the back side better. I'm not sure why it spoke to me. It just did. When you're laying it out, be aware that you want to just watch for the pattern. It was not hard to do, but certainly you want to make sure that the diagonals, triangles, whatever you want to call them, are all coming in at the right place and all going out at the right place. So certainly if they were all going to different, I guess it might create a really interesting look if they were all at different places, but I'm thinking it might make a more confusing look if it was all at different places. So I just laid all the pattern pieces out together and just cut them with the hems all at the same place. And once the hems are all at the same place, you'll be fine. Then watch where this point is here, where the underarm seam is, because what you also want to do, and what you'll notice, is that you want to have the jacket sleeves come in at the right place also, so you notice that the diagonals are coming across at the same place on the sleeves. That kind of stuff is really easy to do, but sometimes when you're close up to a fabric, it's really easy not to see the impact that that fabric has. I'm a big believer in putting the fabric across the room or drape it on a mannequin or something so you can just see the impact it has, because if the sleeve were like, you know, that, or I don't know, like that, you can see that I'm completely missing it. So I really want that sleeve to come in with the print going across the angles. Very easy to do. Just use your underarm seam as a mark to match the jacket to the sleeve, and use the hem as a guide when you're cutting the whole entire jacket. Okay, that's your fitting lesson for Jacket 1900. Love you to make jackets. I don't think I love anything more than seeing women in jackets. And it's so not about working. Jacket with jeans, short jackets, there's so many cute variations. So that's the next part that we're going to do tonight, is we're going to show you some really fun variations, and I really hope you'll like them. And ask questions and do whatever else we need to. Okay, so this 1900 jacket, I'm just certain that out of all the jackets I've ever made, I've made this one more times. I just really like it. I don't know, can't say anything more than that. I just really like it, and every time I see a fabric, oh, 1900 would be great in that, and think, nope, 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 I can't do 1900. I've done it too many times. So the jacket I have on is 1900. The reason I wore it is I wanted you to kind of see a couple things. I was at Neiman's and I was trying on some jackets, and I said to the lady, you know, what's new about jackets today? She goes, oh, they're doing some really exciting things with buttons. So I wanted to show you this. Traditionally, you know, the left side wraps over the right side, and that's how the closures go. This one, or I did this one to match that one at Neiman's. This is, you know, one I made. This is 1900. I'm going to kind of move everything out of the way so you can see. And of course this button, you have flexibility as to where you want it to go, and I put like a clasp, just a real contemporary clasp. Because if I want to, I can open this up and open it up all the way to this one. The bottom one is actually lapped farther than the top one. So let me show you the options it gives you. If this one's closed down there, you get a more vertical line. If I decide to leave this one open, I can just close this one, and I get a little bit more casual look, a little bit more casual feel to it. And when they're open, they just hang open, and they don't necessarily look like they're supposed to be closed or supposed to be open. The other thing she said you can get is you can open it all the way and then of course just belt the bottom. And so it gives you the versatility of wearing that jacket a little more structured, a little less structured, closed, or a little more open. And I really like that. So with this particular jacket, this is 1900. I'm going to take a little bit of water. And what I did with it, because I bought a Calvin Klein, and the Calvin Klein little jacket that I wear, sometimes when I buy something and I look at it, I think, why do I love that? I mean, I go to it, it's like my go-to. I grab it all the time. It was 1900. It was exactly 1900, but it was a knit. And it was exactly like the jacket I have on. It was made out of a stretch fabric. This fabric is called Slither, and if you look at the close-up, it's a knit fabric. So I made the 1900, no lining, and then I used the sweater set sleeve. I just love it. I mean, I'm making it and I'm just like jumping up and down. I just love it so much. Now, when I did the sweater set sleeve, because you're taking the shoulder pad completely away, you're taking the angle completely away, you actually don't have, I didn't have to, and I would recommend you watch for this, I didn't have to change the sleeve at all. Once I took enough shoulder pad away for the jacket to fit my body, I laid my sweater set armhole on there, and it was exactly what I needed my armhole to be. So all I had to do was take that shoulder pad away, and I was good to go. So just watch for that. Now, because it's unlined, you do the front to the back, then you do the collar and sew on the facing. You finish the whole front edge, and then you sew the two front pieces into the side piece. And that's what keeps the facing in line. Whenever you're making a jacket, lining is what keeps things in place. If you do away with the lining, you have to think through and think, okay, how am I going to sew it to keep the facing in place? And that's how you do it. You finish off the whole front edge first, and then sew it into the seam that joins the front to the side seam. Everything else is done just as normal. What fabric did you use for the lining? It doesn't have lining. It's unlined. It's just the fabric. It's beautiful. Just the most gorgeous fabric. I don't have a name on this fabric, but I swear to you it's Eli Tahari. It's just, I've seen it in his stores enough that I just feel certain Eli Tahari. But it's beautiful. There is no lining in the jacket. It's just unlined knit jacket with the sweater set sleeve. Very casual, very simple. I made it long. I lengthened it 6 inches because I wanted a longer jacket. I love the look right now for winter, a little bit of boots down at the bottom. And then I used 113, which is Sunny's top. I just used the base, and I just did the front and the back. No layers, no sleeves. It's a little sleeveless underneath. So I made it long, and then the little jacket underneath. And it's so comfortable, and yet it really steps up how you look. You still don't have to shower, and you still don't have to wear makeup, but it certainly makes you look like you did. Okay. Could you explain, please, how to make the jacket 19 without lining? Yes, I'll do it again, because we're going to do it again. I've got another jacket back here I want to show you. Okay, so I was sent a picture, and I'm going to show you that picture. Okay. So what you can see about that picture is that it's double-breasted, but it's a 1900. You can see the princess seam, the zippers put in the side. That, to my mind, when I look at that jacket, I think, oh, that's 1900. Oops, we'll get it straight for you. Okay? Okay. So, here it is. Is that adorable or what? We'll scoot this in so I can talk about it. Alright, so again, let's go back to this picture for just a minute. I didn't like that it was long. with nothing going on. So I made it shorter. That's not to say you guys don't like it. I didn't. So I decided that a shorter, sportier look is something that I really wanted, and I felt like it blended with the fabric better. The fabric is knit. Okay? So you're going to start, the only change you're going to make, you shorten all the pieces obviously, is you're going to change the change the front piece, and you're going to change the collar. Okay? Now, when you measure the center from the center front over to this piece, I think it was 4 inches. Sorry, 5 inches. When you measure from the center front over to the side, on my size, it was 5 inches. So I'm going to add 5 inches over here. Because what you want in a double-breasted is you want the center, you want this seam to go to this seam. You want center front to come all the way over to the seam. So all you have to do is measure how far it is and make it that much wider at the front. You're adding over here. Okay, and that was it. That's all you do for a double-breasted. Okay, then I had some style options that I would watch for, and they're all styling, but you need to watch for them. I made the collar wider because this lapel gets wider whenever you're doing a double-breasted. I wanted the lapel to be, the collar to be wider also, so I added an inch. It's an inch wider, so it comes out an inch farther than what this one does. This is a thinner lapel, this one's wider. It's all styling. You could have made it longer, you could have changed the shape, you could have done all kinds of things like that. I didn't, I only cut it wider. Okay, so let's talk about the sewing. This also is unlined. There's no lining. So I'll go through the process to help you see it in this. So the first thing I did was sew the front piece to the back piece. Forget the side pieces, they're gone. The front gets sewn to the back. The real front, not the front facing, the real front and the real back gets sewn together. Both times sew the center back seam. You want to create that neck edge. Then you're going to put the facing on top, and you're going to put the collar in between. Now your guide sheet has to do this. You make the collar and you put the collar inside, and you finish off the collar edge by sewing all the way around. And then you're sewing this front edge, and then you're sewing this portion right here. This portion, because it has a facing, has only a seam allowance. When you sew this portion to the side's always going to be longer because the side has a hem. So if you go back to the muslin here, and I'm going to grab this muslin off the mannequin really quick to show you this. This is a really common error that I see a lot in my workshops. When you sew these two pieces together, you all try to get this even. Right there at the bottom, where the front comes to the side, this only has a seam allowance and this has a hem. So this is always going to be longer, and it's longer by like 3/4 to an inch. And that turns up to be the hem, while that turns into be the seam allowance. So when I go to do this jacket and it's unlined, I'm finishing this portion ahead of time. So this whole front is finished. Seam allowance, it's completely finished, the collar's on, I've got the back. And then I'm going to sew the front side to the back side at the shoulder seam, and then join this unit to this unit, all by sewing along from here. It's very simple to do, you just kind of have to think it through and what you're doing. This is a knit sleeve, so again I used my sweater set sleeve for this. But I love the shaping this jacket has. It is absolutely adorable on. The snaps that I put on right here were just to duplicate what she had in the photo. I mean, that's all just styling. When I go to zip it, don't zip any farther than the bust. Don't zip it up. It's just cute to have it connected, but then let the rest of it be open. And I think that's the best way to wear it. You know, zip it 6 inches up or so, and then just leave the rest. But all the back of this jacket just absolutely is beautiful. It's easy. There's no linings. Lining is a finish, and serging is a finish. If you're not going to line, you should serge. If you don't have a serger, you don't have to do anything. But I'm just saying one of those two options is the best way to do that. I literally just hemmed the sleeves by machine, and the rest of the garment, again here, I just hemmed by machine. No, like, you can see that stitch when I'm staring at it, but boy, I'll tell you, you'd have to really stare at it to see it, because it's really hard to see. But it's just a really fun jacket, and it's something I'd see in the stores right now. It's really cute. Do you widen both sides? Yes. Yes. You have both your fronts and your front facings is the same exact piece. So all 4 pieces are cut wider so that you sew them together. You guys, and a lot of times I've had women say to me, I don't get it. Do it. A lot of times when you do it, I mean, you have to understand to add before you do it. I get that. But I think a lot of times we kind of conceptually don't see how it's going to happen, and that stops us from moving forward. Sometimes it's better to just move forward, even if you don't get it all in your head, and then you'll see it because it'll just kind of start to happen. So there you have it. This underneath piece goes all the way to this seam. You don't need anything in there to hold it up. Your body, when it's on your body, it will hold it up. You don't need any buttons in there. You don't need any inside snaps. Not anything. So there you go. That goes like that. That goes like that. I hope y'all like it as much as I do. I think it's just adorable. I love these easy throw-on knit jackets, and they're 1900. They've just got a knit sleeve on them. So without the lining, it's a pretty quick jacket to make. It doesn't take long to do all of this. I was really surprised how quickly they made up. I had kind of reserved sewing time, and I was out the door before my sewing time was up, and I was like, wait, I still want to sew, and I made a little top. I made a few other things for me. Anyway. Do you have the shoulder pads in the jacket you're wearing? No. This is the knit sleeve. With knit sleeves, I don't do any shoulder pads. No. Nothing. You guys, I was in San Diego last weekend. We had such a fun workshop. We really did. I love these workshops. We'll be in Phoenix in a couple weeks. I just really enjoy them. The zipper is in the center side seam. Well, it wouldn't be the center. It's in the... You've only got 4 pieces. You've got 2 fronts and 2 backs. It's not in the side seam. It's in the princess seam that goes between the front and the side front. So the zipper is right in here. Can you see that better? That's your side panel. Back, center back. How large is the hem allowance? Don't do any more than 1 inch, because what happens is the jacket is changing shape, and so anything more than 1 inch isn't going to fold up on itself. I mean, you could do 1.25 inches, but 1.5 inches looks like a little kid. Keep it at 1 inch, 1.25 inches at the most. 3/4 is almost too narrow. It looks like you ran out of fabric and didn't have enough. So 1 to 1 1/4 is pretty standard for a hem in a jacket. How much yardage for the double-breasted jacket? It took 2 yards. If you do it shorter, or if you do, this is a size 2. If you go into some of the larger sizes, you might need the 3. But 2 yards will generally do it because it's shorter. And it depends on if you do a full sleeve or 3/4 sleeve. I thought about doing this with a 3/4 sleeve, but I actually did it at first, and I did the full sleeve and then tucked up the 3/4, and I didn't like it. Because it was a shorter, I thought maybe the shorter 3/4 sleeve would work, but I didn't like it. I really like the longer sleeve. I really like it. I wouldn't change anything at this point. I just really like it. The front princess seams are unaltered for this version. Unaltered. Nothing about the fit is altered or the style. The only thing I changed on the styling was I added width to the front and I added width to the collar. And I switched out sleeves. But that was easy to do because by the time I took away the shoulder pad, there was my sweater set sleeve. It was just sitting there waiting for me to come in and use my sweater set. So I did. How did you keep the front right side under in place? Well, that's what I'm saying to you. When you have it in on your body keeps it in place. It can't go anywhere because your body's right there. So it just stays. You don't have to pin it, you don't have to do a button, you don't have to do anything. Just leave it there and it will stay in place. On that double-breasted jacket, did you fuse the entire garment with interfacing? No. No, nothing's fused, you guys. Keep it simple. You're making it harder and harder than it needs to be. This is the back side of the jacket fabric. The back side is black. I can see that's probably why you thought it was to be fused, but no. It's just a knit jacket. It's just the fabric. It is beautiful fabric, I'm going to tell you. It's a polyester fabric. It's from Italy. I was amazed in sewing with it how beautifully it pressed. Whenever I know it's poly, I expect the pressing to be a little more work and more time consuming. It just wasn't. It just pressed so beautifully that it was just fun to make. Just really fun. It's one of those garments you just, as you get it going together, you just get more and more excited. It was just fun. Does the zip start about an inch below the collar point? Well, it's an 18-inch zipper. We sell them. That's the only ones we have. I didn't have anything else. So I start at the bottom and just went up. So don't think about where it starts up here. Think about it starting at the bottom. You'd want it to start at the bottom. And then I just took the top right into the seam. And the same here. I just took the top. I mean, does it turn out to be an inch? Yes. But I wouldn't worry about that. I would worry about where to start it down here. You want it started at the bottom of the jacket and then just let it go. Oh, you don't need the whole thing anyway. It's just a look. So whenever it stops, call it good. I think it'd be cute even if you had just a little 6-inch zipper. Or, not 6. That's too short. But, even if you had just a little zipper that was just this high, I think that would be cute. Because you'd run out of zipper and none of this would have a zipper. I think that'd be a great option. But I had the 18-inch zipper, so I went that whole entire time. What kind of knit fabric could I use for the jacket 1900? Look at the, we've got some knits on there. You don't need to buy them, but just look at them so you can see the kind of knit they are, and then you can decide what you want to do with it. I think mixing fabrics is always personal choice. On this jacquard, this is the sleeve. I'm making a contrasting lining. I'll show this to you in a couple weeks when I finish it. I use, this jacquard is a cotton blend, and so I used, this is a silk cotton black. They're all on the website, but I just love the way those two kind of harmonize with each other. This isn't a real sharp black, and it's got a little bit of texture to it, and this does too. So I just really like the way they go together. I think as long as you like the way they go together, I don't think I'd worry about what kind of knit. You just want something with enough body that you like. It's got to have a little bit of thickness to it, but we put up, like, I don't know, several new fabrics. They all work for 1900. Some are woven, some are knits, but they'll both have really nice, combination with a pattern depending on what you want to do. Keep in mind that 1900 is a simple pattern. So when we've in the video, the fabric always wins. When we're talking about complex fabrics and simple patterns, again, this is a complex pattern. It really, a fabric, because it's so busy, it really works well with a simple pattern, and that's the same thing with this back here. You've got a lot going on with the fabric, so I want to keep the pattern fairly simple and not have a lot of pieces and a lot of pockets going on. In this particular case, I used the snaps and I used a black zipper just to give it a little bit of a stopping point, just to give it a little bit of focus. And it just adds on. I'm really encouraging you guys. One thing that's really popular right now and ready to wear is what we call our add-ons. And our add-ons are our snaps, our little clasps, our little fasteners, our little zippers. All of those things are really trendy right now. And so when you look at a garment, when you think about fabric and pattern, think of that third element. And that third element is almost like that add-on, it's called. And that, I think, will really get you to kind of love a garment as opposed to just liking it. Just food for thought. Okay? All right, so we're a little bit past. Oh, how much yardage for the jacket you're wearing? This took 2 yards also. Again, it depends on how long. It's a wider fabric, so you can get away with 2 yards, but it depends on your size. If you normally take 3 yards, it would be 3 yards. If you normally take 2 yards, you could still get away with 2 yards. Okay? And if not, you can just lengthen it to the length you want it to be. That worked for me. And keep in mind, a knit sleeve takes up much less yardage than a two-piece sleeve because it takes up like almost half as much because there's no bend, it's just straight, etc., etc. So I love it. I mean, I just really, really like it. I love sewing for you guys. I'm definitely the winner. Not only do my sewing skills get improved, but I get the end result and I have a lot of clothes. And that's really fun. Okay, so everybody's good. Any questions we can ask in closing? Thank you all for being here. On Thursday, we've got a fun little DVD we're going to show you on neck pieces, adding neck pieces. There's a lot of beautiful neck pieces out there, so we're going to make sure you understand how to put it on anything. And then next Monday we'll do the Melania Trump collar and neckline. Are you going to show the other jackets behind you? I just forgot. I'm sorry. These are just older jackets that are 1900 that I've loved. I changed up the buttons to make them a little bit bigger on this. I literally just wore this jacket to death, and I realize I should not keep these jackets, but I'm telling you, they were just, I'm sure if you all knew me for years, you've seen me wear all these jackets. This one I could not part with. And I'm going to tell you that literally the fabric is like worn out, but I just can't part with it. So, can you tell I like clothes? I just really like clothes. But 1900 is a great base. Get it and get it to fit. Get it and get it to be right. And then get some jackets made up. Ask me questions. I'll be happy to help. And then, like I said, next time whether we do a webcast, we'll do the POM for February. But we'll have a follow-up on the jackets where I'll show you this jacket that's finished, and then we'll have a little jacket follow-up so that for many of you who are working on your jackets, you can still finish them and get those finished. All right? Are the snaps functional? They are not. They are not functional. They're just simply there for decoration. I didn't even put a coordinating snap underneath. Usually a lot of times I do that. Didn't even do that. Just made them decorative. How much did you shorten 1900 for the double-breasted jacket? That came off 6 inches. 6 inches less for that one. And I added it onto the one I have on. So in between, there you have it. This is what's called a 1-to-1. So measure from your shoulder to your knee, divide by half. That's the 1-to-1. This is actually what's called a 4-to-1. Measure shoulder to knee, give 4 parts to the jacket, and you'll have the right length. If you notice when you turn down your hand, it's below that portion, so that's the 4-to-1. All right? From Silhouette Patterns, to all of you, happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns. Thanks so much for being here, y'all. Good night, and we'll see you Thursday. Bye.